So I am walking up to Mid-City Mall in Louisville, Kentucky. When you look at this, it isn't what you may initially think of when you hear mall. It's not multiple stories with multiple food courts, dozens or even 100 or more stores, a huge footprint, and somewhere that's only accessible by car. This is a little bit different layout. This was Mid-City Mall. It was built in 1962. Over the years, it had a few times where it was, on the edge in the 70s and the 90s. But the owners of the property have actually put it up for sale, and they've shared renderings of what this will look like once they demolish it and rebuild it all with a completely new format. So I figured it would be a good time to go just walk around and see what everything looks like before it's all demolished. Mid-City Mall is in the Highlands neighborhood in Louisville, Kentucky. It's between Bardstown Road and Baxter Avenue. Around the mall, you have various people's individual homes, and nearby you have different parks and other restaurants and shops and bars, so it's definitely in an area that people walk to in addition to just driving to. So I am going through here in June of 2026, so this is before everything's completely closed and before they've started doing any demolition. Some of the businesses are still open. The nail store to the left was open. On the right, the value market is still open. However, I did see them make posts on their social media about their going on a business sale, so they won't be there much longer. Most of the leases are going to end, I think, at the end of June. So as you can see, there's a lot of empty storefronts with blank spots where the lettering used to be, and the main anchors of the mall are closed at this point. The Baxter Avenue Theater, there's a Family Dollar that closed, so a lot of stuff is gone. The majority of the mall is all on the ground level, but there is also a lower level that houses a few businesses as well. Currently, there is a nearly new to you consignment shop and a gym, but that's pretty much it on this lower level. There is something sad about visiting a building that used to be the home of a lot of activity and various events and people and businesses, and seeing it basically just be a poorly maintained shell of what it used to be. Even if they're going to demolish it and build something else, it is just sad going through knowing all the memories that happened there. So the area that I really spent the most time at Mid-City Mall was actually the theater, Baxter Avenue Filmworks or Baxter Avenue Theater. They would have normal first run movies, and then they would also do interesting programming, or they do midnight showings of stuff, and people would premiere short films or independent films here. And I'd actually competed in a 48-hour film competition and had some short films screen here. So I've actually had some things screen here, in addition just to coming here and seeing things. But the theater was definitely the place I probably spent the most time here. It was built in the 90s, so I lived in the area really close to here in the 2000s, so I came here quite often and saw a lot of movies. And it was very sad when they shut down, but if you can't renew your lease, then you can't keep the doors open. But this was definitely the area that I spent the most time at the Mid-City Mall. There is still a currently operating free public library that is in the mall that will be displaced due to all this change and everything that's going to be demolished and replaced, and it will have to be relocated. The other stores in the mall, they still do have customers, up until they're going to actually have their final days and close. And I'm not going to go through and list every single business that ever operated in the location, because it's very easy to get that kind of thing wrong, because some of that's not easy to track down. So it's more focusing on what the building looks like today and what's still there today. But if you're somebody that has visited there or has memories of the mall, feel free to share it in the comments, because I'm sure other people finding this video would find that interesting. But it is fun to think about the fact that the lower level for the mall used to at one point had a bowling alley and then later a roller skating rink. So a bit different than anything that I remember. And looking at the mall, it is not in super great shape maintenance-wise these days, which, to be expected, and they're going to demolish it all, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But if you want to go and check this out yourself, you really only have a little bit of time before they'll probably start locking things down. And yes, I did check, this phone does not work. One of the other locations in Mid-City Mall that I would spend a fair deal of time at is the back door, which was a bar that was open until the past few years. It was your standard. They had bar food, not expensive drinks. It was usually pretty busy, and that's the back deck area when it was open. This is obviously the entrance, which is padlocked and closed. But this will be very busy. That's the parking lot for it directly across. I believe that the owner passed away, and then when their son took over and tried to keep it open, they had a lot of mounting expenses, and it was in the post-COVID era, and they just unfortunately couldn't keep it open, and it closed. But it was a very popular bar. For years, Louisville would do something called the zombie walk, where it's literally just people dressed up like zombies and walk down the street. It was initially started by some friends, and then it expanded out and became a bigger event. I know that after those, this place would be slammed busy. But yeah, it closed in the past few years. Just one more business that won't be here anymore. I mentioned in the beginning of the video that the mall had had a few close calls over the years. In the 1970s, the local residents protested the mall, and eventually it went into foreclosure and then under new ownership. Once the new owners took over, they decided to put some businesses in the front of the property, not connected to the actual building itself, and that resulted in there being a Skyline Chili, which has been there since the late 70s. And there's another building that's currently Raising Cane's, which is a chicken restaurant. Before that, it was a Dairy Queen, and originally it was a Gaddy's Pizza. There is also a Heine Brothers Coffee, but this building is a more modern addition. It was built in the 2010s, and it started out as a Dunkin' Donuts, and then it changed over to a Heine Brothers. The restaurants will not be affected by the demolition of Mid-City Mall. They'll continue operating and will be there into the future. In the 90s, one of the things that happened, in addition to Mid-City Mall adding the Baxter Avenue Theater, they updated the facade in the front of the building to have a marquee that better advertises the businesses inside the structure. If nothing else, Mid-City Mall was able to last for over 60 years, which is longer than a lot of other malls have lasted that were built more recently and were larger with more stores. To wrap things up, I'm going to show a number of clips that I shot while recording this video of the mall at different times of the day, so enjoy!